Imagine a hole so deep that no one can find the bottom. A place where strange things happen. Animals come back to life, mysterious beams of light shoot into the sky, and the government, they might be hiding it. This isn't a movie, it's a real place, or at least that's what the legend says. This is the story of Mel's Hole. Back in 1997, a guy named Mel Walters called into a late night show called Coast to Coast AM, hosted by Art Bell. Now, Coast to Coast was famous for its strange paranormal topics. People loved listening to wild stories about UFOs, ghosts, and mysterious things from around the world. But after Mel called into the show that night and shared his story, it quickly became one of the show's most famous stories. Mel said he owned some land near Ellensburg, Washington. On this land, there was a hole, but this wasn't just a regular hole. Mel claimed it seemed bottomless. He had been lowering fishing line into the hole, trying to measure how deep it was. But no matter how much line he used, the weight on the end never hit the bottom. He said he had used 80,000 feet of line and still nothing. The people in the area already knew about the hole. Mel said locals used it to get rid of trash. They would toss old junk, broken furniture, and even animals into the hole. But here's where things get even stranger. Some people claimed that the animals, especially dogs that had died and were thrown into the pit, were seen alive again, wandering around nearby. The story spread quickly. Mel became something of a local celebrity, but not everyone was buying it. Some thought it was all just made up. Still, the story had something that pulled people in. A bottomless pit? That's the kind of thing you'll find in a movie or a creepy campfire tale, not in someone's backyard. But it didn't stop there. Mel said that strange government officials got involved. According to him, they forced him off his land. They even paid him a large sum of money to leave the country, and they fenced off the area around the hole. Now, this only added fuel to the fire. Why would the government care about a hole unless there was something down there they didn't want people to know about? People in the area started talking more. They said the hole had been around for years, maybe even decades before Mel ever talked about it. Some even believed it had ties to ancient Native American tribes who lived in the area long before settlers arrived. The land around Ellensburg, Washington has been home to indigenous tribes for thousands of years, including the Yakama Nation. Some locals believed that the tribes might have had stories or legends about the hole. But here's the thing, there's no clear record of any Native American tribe directly mentioning a bottomless pit like Mel's Hole. That doesn't mean there's no connection, it just means the stories are hard to pin down. In Native American cultures, deep holes, caves, and pits often hold special meaning. They aren't just places in the earth. Many tribes believe they connect our world to another realm, a spiritual or mystical world below. Some of these stories go back hundreds, even thousands of years, passed down through generations. They are part of how these tribes understood the land and the mysteries around them. One of the most famous stories comes from the Hopi tribe. The Hopi believe their ancestors came from deep within the earth. According to their tradition, their people emerged from a world below through a hole called the Sipapo. This hole is often described as a small opening in the ground connecting the surface world with the underworld. In their story, the Hopi lived in the world beneath the earth before a spirit guide led them to the surface. The Sipapo represents the connection between their old world and the new one. There are also stories about caves that are seen as doorways to the spirit world. For example, in the Cherokee tribe, caves were often viewed as homes to spirits or the little people who were said to live deep within the earth. The Cherokee would avoid certain caves, believing they held supernatural power. In some cases, these caves were thought to be places where the dead would travel after passing away. The Sioux have tales about a place called Wind Cave located in South Dakota. In their belief, Wind Cave is the entrance to the underworld. The Lakota Sioux say their ancestors emerged from this cave after a great flood coming out to populate the land. Today, Wind Cave is a sacred site for the Lakota, and they treat it with great respect because of its deep spiritual meaning. What's interesting is that many of these stories share a common theme: deep holes or caves as connections between worlds. In Native American lore, it's claimed that unusual things happen in these places. For example, some legends speak of animals or spirits coming back from the dead or of strange energy surrounding certain areas. These themes sound similar to the tales surrounding Mel's Hole, like the dead animals being seen alive again. It's possible that if the hole existed long ago, it might have been viewed as a sacred or forbidden place. However, because so much Native American history and knowledge was passed down orally, it's possible that some of those stories were lost over time. When settlers arrived and took over the land, many tribal traditions were disrupted, so any connections between the hole and Native American beliefs might have faded away with time. In the end, while there's no solid proof that the hole was part of Native American lore, it's not hard to see why people would make that connection. Deep, mysterious places have long been part of indigenous stories, and Mel's Hole fits right into that type of legend. People didn't just wonder how deep the hole was. They started to believe it had some kind of supernatural power. And as the story spread, more and more paranormal claims began to pop up. One of the weirdest stories is about animals. Mel said that locals used to throw dead animals into the hole. But here's the strange part. Some people claimed they saw these animals alive again. Imagine seeing your old dog, the one you threw into the hole because it had died, suddenly walking around like nothing happened. It sounds impossible, but people swore by it. The weird part is that people claimed the animals that came back to life no longer recognized their owners. Some speculate that the animals might be from another dimension, and that was the reason they couldn't recognize their owners. This idea that the hole could bring things back to life made it more than just a pit. It became almost magical. Another claim was about a black beam of light. Mel said that one night he saw a beam of pure darkness shooting up from the hole into the sky. It wasn't like a normal light. It was like the opposite of light, a dark beam that didn't make any sense. This kind of thing just doesn't happen in the real world, which is why it fascinated and freaked out so many people. The idea of a black beam sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, which I find really weird. Light is the opposite of darkness. Light is the emission of electromagnetic radiation, typically in the visible spectrum. Darkness, by definition, is the absence of light. A beam of black light would imply the presence of something that absorbs or blocks light, but light itself cannot be dark since it must emit energy. Black is also not a color that can be emitted. It is the result of an object absorbing all wavelengths of visible light without reflecting any. It represents an absence of light, not something that can be projected. So Mel saying he saw a black beam of light sounds fishy. Maybe that's just me. What do you think? But that's not all. There were reports that the hole messed with technology. Radios and other electronics would stop working when they got too close. People said their compasses would spin wildly near the pit, as if something about the hole interfered with the Earth's magnetic field. This kind of thing made people think that the hole wasn't just deep, it was somehow connected to otherworldly forces. Then there was the matter of sound, or rather, the lack of it. Usually, when you drop something into a pit, you eventually hear a sound even if it's faint. But Mel said that no matter what he dropped into the hole, there was no echo, no crash, nothing. The silence seemed unnatural, as if the hole swallowed sound itself. This added to the eerie feeling that the pit wasn't just physically deep, it was somehow beyond normal reality. Some people began to believe that the hole could be a portal. They speculated it might lead to another dimension or even be a gateway to the underworld. There were stories about strange creatures or entities that might live down there. People started connecting the hole to all kinds of paranormal ideas, aliens, government experiments, or hidden worlds beneath the earth. One of the most interesting parts of Mel's hole is the claim that the government got involved. This is where things start to feel like a conspiracy. According to Mel, after he went public with his story, strange things started happening. It wasn't just a deep hole anymore, it became something much bigger. Mel claimed that shortly after his call to Coast AM, the government took notice of the hole. He said that the men who seemed to be from the government showed up at his property. They told him he had to leave immediately. Not only that, but they fenced off the entire area around the hole, blocking it from public view. Mel said they wouldn't let him go back to his land. When he asked why, they gave him no real answers. They just said it was a matter of national security. This only made the story more mysterious. Why would the government care about a hole on some guy's property in rural Washington? If it was just a deep pit, it wouldn't be a big deal. But the government's involvement made people wonder if there was something more to the hole, something they didn't want the public to know about. Mel also said that the government paid him off. He claimed they offered him a large sum of money to leave the country and stay quiet about the hole. According to him, they sent him to Australia, where he lived for a while. This added to the idea that the hole was somehow connected to a top secret project and they wanted Mel out of the picture. There are more strange twists to the story. Some people believe that the hole might have been connected to secret military experiments. Maybe the hole was used for testing advanced technology or weapons. Others thought it could have something to do with aliens. After all, there have been plenty of other stories where the government supposedly covered up evidence of UFOs or extraterrestrial activity. There's also a theory that the hole is part of a network of underground tunnels or bases. Some conspiracy theories believe that the government or even other countries have built massive underground facilities. This would be used for everything from storing weapons to hiding top secret research. Maybe the hole led to one of these hidden places, and that's why the government was so interested in it. Another strange part of the story is how Mel claimed the government blocked satellite images of the area. According to him, if you try to look at his property on a satellite map, you wouldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Some people even say that the coordinates for the hole don't show up on GPS devices, as if they've been deliberately erased or altered. Of course, there are many of people who don't believe any of this. They think it's all a hoax and that Mel made up the story for attention or money. Investigating the physical reality of the hole, Mel said he had lowered over 80,000 feet of fishing line into the hole and it still didn't hit the bottom. That's over 15 miles deep. To put it in perspective, the deepest man-made hole, the Kola Super Deep borehole in Russia, is about 7.5 miles deep. The project took years of drilling and advanced technology, so the idea that a natural pit could be more than twice that deep seemed hard to believe. Geologists have weighed in on the idea of a bottomless pit. From what we know about the Earth's crust, such a deep hole is almost impossible. The crust in that part of Washington state is only about 20 to 30 miles thick. Beneath it is the mantle, a layer of semi-molten rock. If a hole went too deep, it would eventually reach this molten rock, and any pit that deep would likely collapse on itself. So a hole that's bottomless or even deeper than a few miles is unlikely based on what we understand about geology. People also questioned other parts of the story. Mel said that the hole made no sound when objects were dropped in. Normally, you would expect to hear some kind of echo or crash if you threw something into a pit, no matter how deep it is. The fact that Mel's hole supposedly swallowed sound didn't fit with how physics works. It added to the mystery, but it also made some people think the story was made up. People said radios stopped working and compasses spun widely near the pit. There are places on Earth where magnetic fields are stronger or weaker, which can mess with compasses. But for a hole to interfere with technology in such a big way, there will need to be some kind of extreme magnetic or electrical force which nobody has proven to exist near Ellensburg. Then there's the question of why no one else has found the hole after Mel's story went public. With so many curious people out there, you would think someone would have stumbled upon it by now. Some believe the government blocked off the area, while others think the hole was never there to begin with. Skeptics argue that it could all just be a hoax or a misunderstanding. There are other deep pits in the world like sinkholes and old mine shafts, but they are all relatively small compared to the claims about Mel's hole. It's possible that Mel or others exaggerated what they saw, or that local legends turned a regular hole into something more mysterious. In the end, investigating the physical reality of Mel's hole is difficult. There's no concrete evidence that such a pit exists, and the details surrounding it seem impossible based on science and geology. But the lack of proof hasn't stopped people from believing or wanting to know more. The idea of a bottomless pit is just too intriguing to let go of. What are your thoughts about Mel's hole? Could it have been a hoax? Maybe Mel made up the story for fun or to become famous, or was he telling the truth? Did the government cover up the hole? If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next video.